Okay, thank you. The next one is for Scott. Issues with high salinity in pool water from flooding and its hazards to the pool and all equipment. How are heaters affected? What about filters? Can they be cleaned and recleaned?
Well, Hayward's stance on any of the equipment, electrical and or gas appliances, must be inspected. We're requiring inspection, highly recommending, if you will, but any of that has been reached by water, certainly flooded by water, is something we're recommending replacement. We're not covering it under warranty. In regards to filters, I still think I would recommend a inspection first. It's really going to depend on how much damage was done to them, assuming they're still sitting there. Certainly with a sand filter, if it is intact, the filter, the valve is intact, you may be okay by removing the sand, cleaning the inside of the tank, the valve, running some water through it. As far as your cartridge, DE style filters, obviously draining those, either replacing the element inside, or if possible, you're able to chemically clean the cartridge and or grids for DE filters.
Kyle?
Yeah, that's pretty ambiguous, inspection. So everybody in this room is a pool professional, or theoretically? Okay, I just find what you said pretty ambiguous, that you said it requires an inspection. Well, what am I looking for? What happens? You said a heater. Okay, well, the components have salt water on them. I'm not an electrician. What am I looking for to say, oh, no, it's okay, I could keep this here?
Sure.
Shouldn't I really walk in the backyard and just say, sorry, it's total loss, because if Hayward's not going to cover it, I'm not going to cover it?
Well, and I agree with your point. I think what we're looking at there is when you say, okay, salt water was at a ½ inch up on the feet and it never got inside, never got into the electronics, never touched the heat exchanger, that's certainly one thing. Was it 3 foot above it? Is there contamination sitting still on there? Can you see a high water mark on a heat pump or a gas heater? There's still water in the control box, in the chlorine generator box. Our request, our stance on it is a certified service professional.
Okay, so follow-up to that is, we're a certified service professional. Hayward, you said, is not, and I'm assuming the rest of the manufacturers, I don't mean to pick on Hayward, are not covering it under warranty. So if water hit the pump, or if water, engulfed the salt chlorine generator, is it a done deal, or are you telling me I could go in and make it work and, hey, you'll cover it because it work dependent?
No, what we're looking at is if there is damage that was done due to the storm, that if you determine, we look at it, we determine, or both, that, the damage to the equipment, whether it happens the first day they turn it on or a year from now, was due to this storm, that's something that's not going to be covered. The main thing we're looking at is not looking at, covering warranties or not covering warranties. We're looking for the safety and the longevity of the equipment. Okay? So,
the consumer actually using it for.
exactly. So the first.
A week later, when you burn the house down, because you checked it, you go to okay, it's a spot in the garage.
That's correct.
Shouldn't you recommend just changing it then, is what I'm saying?
No, because I think that's too bold, at least from our viewpoint, to say that, to be able to look at a map and say, okay, you're in the floodplain, some amount of water flooded that area, maybe it was a ½ or 1/8 of an inch, to void everyone's warranty and say replace every single piece of equipment, I think is a little far reaching. That's why we put it into professionals' hands to make the inspection, and we're telling this to homeowners who are calling right now. What should we do? Should we wait? We want it to be inspected by you before they ever go to try to turn it on to see if it may work, if it's possible that, well, we'll run it for a while, see if it dries out and works later. That's not what we're posting.
I think that's not the issue. The issue for me, anyway, is somebody that likes to cut the job, does not want to spend the money. They say, start this heater up, it works. And I look at it and they say, where's the water go? 6 inches? I'm the last guy that looked at it. I leave that house. There's a fire. They're coming after me. They're not coming after me. Well, that's true for you and too, but my point is, it's got to be, everybody's got to be on the same page. You can't have somebody say, well, you can look at it, you can't look at it. Because when I look at it and I leave, and the house burns down a week later, they're coming after me.
Sean,
Think
you're
we-
100% right. What,
Parts
All right.
and pieces, and we're not talking about that, we're talking about the liability.
We have more-
manufacturer's now passing along to those of us in the audience, saying, you go inspect it, and if you think it's okay,
And the
leave
problem's
it.
gonna be is, when they call, when we tell them that, then they call the manufacturer, and you tell them to go get it inspected, they come back at us and say, why can't you look at it? The manufacturer said, go look at it.
Okay, we're going to address some of this, we're going to address some of this a little later with Rick, but you say you have a
Yeah,
comment?
well, I was just gonna make a comment on that for you. Pretty much, if the equipment got wet, it's gone.
Thank you.
That's it.
Right. I agree.
But
In
Sean, he's not
Florida,
a
if
manufacturer.
water goes over the pump and
He's one of us.
if, where we are, if water goes over the pump, you might get it to run, but it's gonna last about less than a week, and you might as well just change it right then and there.
That's
pretty much.
Yeah.
Total cost of it.
Look,
Yeah, the same
there's-
thing is true with the electronics. If the water's over the top of it, it's gone. I was gonna talk about that on the electrical. One of the things that we did, I handed out some guidance from NEMA and some other people on that. But basically, circuit boards, if they get salt intrusion on them, particularly when they dry out, you may not be able to see the salt on it, but it's there. And that can result in some long-term problems that may not show up for a couple of months, sometimes for a couple of years, depending on how it's used. Many of which are fire hazards because you can arc track across that conductive salt. So if you're dealing with power voltages, that's an issue. And so NEMA and everybody else basically says if it's got circuit board in it that is exposed to the water, it's actually submerged under the water, it's gone.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, and we can talk about this when we open it up, we can reapproach it.